I first saw my baby in a rest stop in the middle of nowhere. We got out of the car, and there he was, and he came to greet us, all tail wagging and happy, as if he knew us from before, as if he was expecting us. You couldn't really tell from all the hair, but the moment we touched him, we knew that he had been starving, or that he had been starved. He was about 7 months old, and the last time he probably had a good meal was when he was breastfeeding. There are countless strays where I come from. You see them everywhere. I've rescued and rehomed hundreds. I've met thousands in the shelter where I volunteer at, but once in a while, there comes this one dog that steals your heart. And he was that type of dog. All I could think of while we were having breakfast was the moment we would go out again and get him and put him in the car. And that's what we did. And, it wasn't his hunger that made me feel the urgency of his rescue. It wasn't his bones that we could count one by one. It wasn't his young age. It wasn't the fleas or the dirt on him, the horrible smell that spoke of months and months of living in conditions unimaginable. It was none of that. It was his innocence. I couldn't leave all that innocence get tainted and crushed on the street by people who ignore it, or worse, who find it annoying. People who apparently have some sort of emotional handicap, and that's nearly all people in that area, and in all areas, and the world. Whatever. He slept all the way to the city. That was probably the best sleep he had in months. According to his microchip, he had been collected, vaccinated, and tested by the municipality of that area. That's why both his front legs were shaved when we found him, I suppose. But all that is bullshit. Trust no one, especially some local government who leaves a starved puppy full of fleas on the streets. So before we headed home, we passed by our vet. He was tested again, he was given a vitamin shot, and we were sent home. For the first couple of nights, I put him in the terrace upstairs, until all the fleas were dead. And I would go and see him 3 times a day, and feed him, and pet him, and walk him. And then I couldn't take having him up there anymore, so I brought him downstairs. After all the fleas were gone, I gave him a good bath. And it was only then when I saw what I had felt with my hands while petting him. How skinny he actually was. A bag of bones, really. A starving puppy. I have to say, I don't really do puppies. I don't foster them. There have been the occasional few, and by few, I mean 3. This one was different. I had pre-decided since the first moment I saw him that no matter what he did, no matter how much training he needed, I would do anything to make a perfect dog out of him. This particular one could pee on my rugs and chew my furniture, and I just wouldn't care. I would train him. I would do anything for him. I would tolerate anything. But none of that was needed. None of it. Alex, as I named him, was perfect to begin with. And when I say perfect, perfect. He's clean, he's obedient, he's quiet, he's extremely respectful of my 3 dogs and cats. He's basically, he's flawless as a 7-month-old dog can be. I'm not sure what it is that's made him flawless. His short life has been horrible so far, and one would know only by how he smelled. But there's something in that young dog's heart that makes him who he is. There is an innocence combined with an unprecedented intelligence. There is only one thing, apart from being emaciated, that is telling of his past, and that's his relationship with food. He does this thing before he's served, where he chatters his teeth in a unique and extremely cute way. And of course he eats like there's no tomorrow. But the most impressive thing of all is that wherever he has once found food on our walks, he will remember the spot and walk towards it the next time. Not as a spoiled, greedy dog, but more like a dog that has developed this habit as a basic survival skill. One has to remember where food can be found because one has to survive. And I respect him for that. So I do try to correct him, but in a way that doesn't make him think that he's been doing something wrong. And now that he's not being starved anymore, the streets have a chance of becoming something else. As we take those calm, quiet walks together, the streets are redefined in his mind. They become the place where he builds his confidence. But as it turns out, the streets are bound to be a place where he's looking for something. And if that something isn't food, it's human affection. His walks are defined by a constant search for reassurance from humans. As he was used to go out looking for food, he now goes out looking for affection. And sometimes he gets that. And when he gets it, he's the happiest dog in the world. His quest wasn't wasted, his effort wasn't ignored. And when he gets that attention, he gives it back double. It's like food for his soul, and it's the streets where he's been looking for it. And he remembers the places where he has been petted once, just like he remembers the places where he's found food. And he goes looking for it, looking for that affection. And it's made me realize that this is as important to a dog's survival as food is. He's not always lucky. Sometimes on an entire walk, he doesn't even get one person to notice him. And oh, he tries. He tries in the most discreet, polite way possible, going slowly towards people, tail wagging and tilting his head in a submissive manner. And he gets ignored. And he tries again and again. He waits at the entrance of gyms and coffee shops and wags his tail and puts on his charm. And nothing. I reassure him then and give him the attention that he didn't get. And we continue our walks. These failures of his hurt me. Sometimes I arrange with friends that they come out for a few minutes when we walk by their place so they get to give him what he wants. I'm not sure why he doesn't get the attention a puppy normally would, but I think it's his appearance. Dogs like him here are used to be seen out on the streets as strays or working with sheep. They make excellent pets, but they are never chosen as such. They just don't get adopted, not because they lack anything as dogs, but because people lack a lot of knowledge and because they've not been conditioned by the pet industry to see themselves living with a dog like him. And that sucks. It sucks. And I get frustrated and angry on his behalf. And then I get very sad. He's always happy when we come back home. Even the shortest walk tires him. He's still anemic, very skinny and very weak. And that, combined with his laid-back attitude, makes him a homebody type of dog. So then he eats and he gets his treat, and a couple of times he's nibbled a toy or my trouser leg, and then he sleeps. He sleeps in all the dog beds and in all the sleeping positions. And when I go to him, he turns around and lets me pet his belly for as long as I like. And I treat him as something extremely fragile, not only because he is poorly, but because he is so valuable. And he smiles. I swear this is an actual smile. They say behaviors are physical expressions of emotion, and his behavior expresses trust and a high level of emotional intelligence that makes me admire him. A lot. I spend a big part of the day watching him sleep. It gives me an extremely satisfying feeling of fulfillment watching him sleep. It makes me very happy that he feels safe. He's a dog that came into a house of 3 elderly actually, dogs and 3 cats, and made himself at home from day one, as if he's always lived here. He didn't disturb the balance in here, not once, not for 1 second. He's just 7 months old. And yet everyone knows he's going to be very difficult to rehome because of what people mistakenly think about dogs like him, which makes me very stubborn to the point where I'm thinking that I will keep him for myself, unless someone comes along and says something like, "My kingdom for Alex." Anyway, it's winter here, and yet sometimes he chooses to sleep on the floor tiles. There's 5-6 beds that fit him in the house, and a rug, but he goes for the tiles. And when he's laying there, he looks so lonely and poor, which he is. He was born very poor. He had nothing, and he never knew there was anything to have either. Now he's got it all. And laying on the floor might be the only thing he has left that is somewhat familiar to what he's known so far, and who he was until a week ago. So here's a 3-week update, because a lot of things changed before I finished editing the video. He seems to be getting his strength back, together with some weight. He is becoming more confident, more playful, He gives me some very funny moments, and there are times when he's an absolute clown, and I love that. He's trying new things. He constantly walks around with a toy in his mouth. He gathers his collection of toys in one bed and then transfers them from one bed to the other. And there's some zoomies and some extra excitement. He looks more like a dog his age now than he did before. He's more confident on the walks also. He looks for food and attention less and less. Basically, he now walks as if he's a dog that is not needy, just happy. And I am also trying to train that need for attention out of him. First of all, because it's a behavior that can escalate to something very negative. And because he shouldn't be needing that when he's out walking, really. He still coexists perfectly with the others, although he's testing some boundaries when he's overexcited, but they know how to put him in a place, and so do I. He's a very, very good dog. A very good dog. And as he's opening up more and more, he keeps learning, and I keep learning with him. But the main thing I'm trying very hard every single day is to preserve this innocence of his. Even more than keeping him healthy and safe and fed, my main task is to keep him innocent.